Wake up, you ain't heard the news. Fast breaks on your screen, always making moves. Thank you for joining me here on the Thursday edition of the Fast Break Sports Hour, October 25th, 2018, here on YouTube Live. Fast Break Sports Hour, live and kicking, here for the Thursday Night Football pregame special. Especially going to get into the World Series and what's been going on there with the Dodgers. Man, time is running out. Time is running out on the LA Dodgers, and let's get right to that. Let's get right to the World Series where the Dodgers have went to Fenway for the first two games and have failed. They have failed the first two games. And in LA Dodger fashion, they have failed. They get a big F in these first two games. They didn't set the tone in any of the two games, which they needed to do early, whether it was consistent pitching, good decisions by the manager, Dave Roberts, and or consistent hitting and just the lineup itself. Now, when you got the Red Sox, who, again, took both games at home, so everything is as it should be. They got home field. They got the first two games. That's all they did was hold court. Hold serve for those of you that do tennis or whatever other sport. But volleyball, I guess. They held serve the first two games of the World Series and are now up 2-0. And there's a reason why the Red Sox were the best team in baseball throughout the season. 109 wins. Best record in baseball. Why? Because they do everything right. They do everything good. They're not ones to fall flat on their face. They don't beat themselves. And especially in the World Series, if you're the LA Dodgers, it's a very, it's just a bad time to second guess, to make bad decisions, to not bring it, to not know your opponent's home field. And what I mean by that is simply not knowing the angles of the field, of the wall, of the green monster. And it showed, especially in game one. In game one, where the Dodgers fell 8-4, where Clayton Kershaw gave up 5 runs, but I'm going to give him 3 runs. Not 5. Because if you remember, there was a routine pop-up to the first baseman, and which was David Freese at the time, and he just failed to time the ball right, or just miscalculated it. And again, it's a routine flying ball. It's something that easily the second baseman could have ran over and called him off because it didn't look like he was too confident tracking this ball down just over the first baseline. So there's that guy that gets on base, and that's a run that came in. So there's one. The second one that I'm not going to blame Kershaw for is a simple base hit that knocks in a run. Kershaw's fault, yes, that's what happens. But instead of Puig giving it or sending it over to third base or the cutoff man, he throws it home as to try to get this base runner out, which he wasn't going to do. And because he goes home, now the base runners move over to third and second. If the base runners don't go to third and second, you're looking at first and second. And the next hit isn't giving up another run. So those are mistakes by two players. Now, the Puig mistake, that's more so decision making and his awareness. That you just can't do that. You're not going to get a guy out at home with a guy that has a decent lead at third base on a base hit. I don't care what kind of arm you have. It just wasn't going to happen. And then too many things can go wrong. You need to know the time and place. You need to be aware of the score and how many outs. And you need to be aware of where the runners are at on the base path, on the diamond. Where are they? what can happen. But all that has to be like this. But he's more interested in trying to make a splash play, which in turn gave up another run. And the David Freese is just not knowing the area. Another player that wasn't aware or was not used to the distance from left field to the foul line to the wall, because it's real close on both sides. It's a smaller park. It's the third smallest park in baseball. Not to mention the Green Monster, where it's just, you think you might have a home run, but it's going to bounce off the top, thus still giving you a double, maybe a triple if it bounces the right way and the defender does not know how to play it off the wall. But this particular fly ball to left field was getting close to the wall, to the foul line, which is like this much apart. And Jock Peterson, because he doesn't know the distance and isn't aware of where he's at on the field, starts to slow up when he easily could have ran another or took another 5 steps and still been safe to not run into anything. And who cares? Run into something, man. This is the World Series. You can't be worried about hitting the wall. Not in the World Series. You have to go full force. And if you don't know where you're at on the field, that's your problem. That's something you have to figure out before the game starts. So he goes and he starts to slow up, and then he sees the ball, puts his glove out, and the ball hits the tip of the glove. And he had room there. Which, and then this was big because the score was 5-4. This is the bottom of the 7th when this happened. 5-4, and oh man, it's just upsetting, because this is an out. This is an easy out if you're willing to understand where you're at and to understand that this is the World Series. You go all out, which gives them an extra runner, and in turn, because you weren't able to come up with that routine fly ball that had you hustled. Now you hustled, but you hesitated. So had you hustled full force and knew where you're at, you make the catch, and the 2-out, 3-run home run never happens. That's just real. So you can't make those mistakes. Now here's the thing that made it worse, is it's 5-4 with 2 outs. They got those 2 outs because Baez, relief pitcher, struck out 1 and 2 with 2 men on base. Struck him out, the first 2 batters. So if he does that, why would you take him out? Why take him out at that point? Let him finish the inning and get that 3rd out. No, they decided to take him out. Let's put in Wood. Maybe he can give us four outs to get into the 9th. Because you're talking about the last out in the 7th, 3 outs in the 8th. They bring in Wood, and on the 2nd pitch, he gets bombed on. Home run, 3-run home run. Game over. Because Dave Roberts overthinks baseball. He overthinks it. And when a guy should be taken out, he waits. He waits until it's no longer a game. So he just has bad judgment of when to pull a guy too early or too late. He never does it at the right time. Again, Baez gets 2 strikeouts. Same 2 guys are on base. Let him finish out the inning. He was looking good. Why take him out? You take him out, and now Wood gives up a home run, a 3-run home run. Now, as a manager, I understand you want your players to make plays. You're making the decision. Your decision is not what's causing the runs. Your players are. But if you see a good thing happening, let it go. Let it happen. Game 2. Ryu he's coasting through this game. Pitching wonderful. Dodgers are up 2-1. Gives up a base hit. Gives up another one. Okay. Loads the bases, and this is all with 2 outs, And then he walks a guy, which walks in the tying run. So now you got bases loaded, and the game is tied 2-2. He has 2 outs, and they put Madsen in a bad position. Now this one's, it could have gone either way. Do you keep Ryu in there and just say finish it out, man? Because at the end of the day, you brought in Madsen to clean up for Ryu, and he gives up a single right off the bat. 2 more runs come in. So now it's 4-2. You gave up 3 runs in that 6th. Or excuse me, in the 5th, bottom of the 5th. My apologies. I'm a little upset. But I'm biased. I'm unbiased. I'm not making things up. I'm not saying that the Dodgers should have won. No, I'm telling you, these little mistakes they're doing are causing them to stay in the game and have a chance to win. I'm not saying that the 2 runs that came in because of bad decision making and errors in game 1 would have gave them the win. No, it would have gave them an opportunity to win. And if you don't take Baez out to get that 3rd out, it gives you an opportunity to win. You're down 1 run, not 4. Game 2. In this one, at some point, this Dodgers lineup, and give all credit to the Red Sox. The Red Sox, they're getting most of their runs. 9 out of the 12 runs that they've scored in this World Series have come with 2 outs. That's clutch. That's big. That's what gets you championships. Like I said, the Boston Red Sox do everything right. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. But the LA Dodgers, they'll do that once in a while, but they've done it in 2 games now. You're down 0-2. Okay. That's all understood. Water under the bridge now. You're down 0-2. You got the next 3 games at home. You have to win 2 games to get back to Boston, to give yourself a chance. And it starts tomorrow. And you're putting the ball in Walker Buehler's hand. You're putting the series in his hands, really. Which is fine. He is a rookie, but he is your best pitcher. Let's call it what it is. Especially down the stretch, he's been the best pitcher. But he had that shaky start against the Braves in that Game 3 clinching game, but then stepped his game up against the Brewers. Which, hey man, it's the playoffs. That's going to happen. Whether or not Walker Buehler has a great outing or an average outing, the Dodgers need to score some runs. You need to get hits. You're not going to win a game against the Red Sox with those bats that just get hit after hit after hit, and they just pummel you. They come at you in waves. You're not going to beat the Red Sox averaging 3 runs a game. Now, at Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles, in your stadium, you might get a game by scoring 3 runs. 1 game. But there is no way in where that if the Dodgers average 3 runs in these 3 games at home, this series is going to be over. Finito. That's it. Better luck next year. That's what it's looking like. So it's the decision making, the relief pitching, the errors. Got to get rid of those. But at the same time, you got to start hitting. We need some consistency. The Dodgers need some consistency hitting the ball. Get on base. Don't leave guys on base. You can't do that in the World Series. So that's what's going to be Game 3. Again, you might win 1 game at home producing 3 runs. You might have that game where you can hold the Red Sox to 2, maybe 1 run. I doubt it. But if you decide to score 9 runs in the next 3 games total, you're done. It's over. Game over. And if you lose on Friday, LA, it's over. 3-0, it's done. There's no coming back from that. Nothing is going to save you. It's going to be a sweep. Or at worst, for Boston, a 5-game World Series victory. So Boston's doing all the little things right. They're being very, oh man, the consistent word is, man, it's overly used, but they are consistent at winning and making winning decisions and making winning plays when it matters. The Dodgers, they definitely do strike back when they're forced to strike back. But in the World Series, man, it can be too late. It can be too late. You cannot wait for the other person to strike first, especially in any championship scene. In anything that has to do with a championship, you are not going to win a championship by waiting to see what the other team has, what the other team is coming at you with. Whether it's football, basketball, boxing, anything. If you wait to see what your opponent has and wait for that first punch, you're done. You have to come out firing. Don't wait to be down 2-0 to have this sense of urgency. Because in both games, they've been down. And they got the lead, which it looked like, hey, we're up 2-1. We're good to go. And that's what the Dodgers do. That's what they do. I know this because I've been watching them forever, especially this year. Oh, okay, we're up a run. We're fine. Let our pitchers handle it the last 4 or 5 innings. We don't need any more runs. The sense of urgency stops. I see it. It's not about just bad luck and not getting hits. I can tell by their body language that they're content with having a 1-run lead or the tie game. Like, look at, we accomplished something. You didn't accomplish anything. So this is it. Game 3, Walker Buehler, Rick Porcello. This is it. And if the Dodgers do not come out firing, and what I mean firing, I'm talking about 5 runs in the first 4 or 5 innings, this series is over. They cannot wait for Walker Buehler to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to shut this team down, which he probably can. He could probably hold the Red Sox to 1 or 2 runs, but you can't be tied when Walker Buehler's out this game. You have to be winning by 2 runs at the minimum. Give Jansen a 2-run lead in the 9th inning, see what happens. Let's do that, LA. If not, all you're proving is that you're the best team in the National League, but you just don't measure up with the American League. And you have the bats to do it. And Cody Bellinger, why isn't he starting? Why isn't he? I understand he's a left-handed bat going against left-handed hitters, and you would rather have Matt Kemp as your designated hitter. But come on, man. Are you just going to wait to have a right-handed pitcher to put in Bellinger, to put in Peterson? Those are the guys that got you there. Let them play. Max Muncy, let them play. You can't have them pinch hit and expect them to get going with 1 at bat. Those are your main guys. Let's be real with it. Kemp isn't your main guy. He got a home run in the first game. He got an RBI in game 2. But let's be real with it. What was Matt Kemp at the end of the season? Nowhere to be found. Or better yet, where was he the second half of the season? Nowhere to be found. So he stepped up. But come on, man. I understand that having a veteran in the World Series, I understand that having someone that knows what the feeling is like, a person who's been there, that's what you want, because you want to make sure, if you're Dave Roberts, you want to make sure you have a comfortable lineup out there where guys aren't going to make too many mistakes, but really they're not going to blow this game open. Now, David Freese, first game, 2 for 3, he did his thing. But I would much rather have David Freese and Matt Kemp coming off the bench, giving me that hit when the team is struggling. Because Peterson, Bellinger, Muncy, they need at-bats. They got to get into a game. They can go let them go 1 for 4, but that 1 for 4 is going to be a knock. So game 3 tomorrow, do or die for LA. It's not an elimination game, but really it is. Really it is. And realistically, I believe they have to win the next 2 games and then see what happens from there. But 3-0, 3-1 is just too much of a steep hill to climb. And I understand the old cliche, let's just take it 1 game at a time. Well, you did that, you're down 2-0 now. Keep brushing away these losses, like, let's just win the next one. At some point there isn't going to be a next one. So do or die for the Dodgers tomorrow. Win or go home. Don't even show up for game 4. Win or go home. That's what it is. Just giving y'all the facts. 3-0, it's over. Thursday night football, man. Let's talk about some fun stuff. And the World Series has been somewhat entertaining. Let me get back to that. It's been entertaining if you look at the first 7 innings of both of these games. After that, no, not really. Because the Boston Red Sox relief pitching has just shut down the Dodgers the last 3 innings. Where it's like, shut you down, shut you down, shut you down. So, there you have it. Thursday night football. Sorry, I had to jump back on that. The Miami Dolphins will be going to the Houston Texans tonight. 4-3 Miami, coming off a bad loss against Detroit. And not to say Detroit's a bad team, but you lost at home in the fashion you lost by double digits. That's a bad loss to an average team. And the Dolphins are an average team. They're fighting for playoff positioning at this point after 7 games. 4-3. A team that started 3-0, so 1-3 in their last 4. Going against a team that's been riding high. Same record, and that's crazy. Both of these teams at 4-3 are total opposites. Total opposites. You talk about the Houston Texans who started off 0-3, and now they're winners of the last 4. And J.J. Watt's like, you know what? This is the best thing that could happen to us, is having that 4-game win streak and then playing on Thursday. Now you get to continue that win streak. That's the mindset. That's the mindset for Houston. Now, if Miami had Tannehill, I would give them a puncher's chance in this game. But Brock Osweiler, though he reached into some super duper bag 2 weeks ago against Chicago, created that comeback, and had a hell of a night, or a hell of a day, that went into overtime. But I will say, I believe his wide receivers made a lot of plays. His running backs made a lot of plays. But that's what you have to win games sometimes. So, going back to last game, we saw what Brock Osweiler does. He's going to throw a lot of 6-7 yard passes, and hopefully his playmakers make plays. But now, no Albert Lewis, and no, who else is out? Kenny Stills. I'm just real with it. So those 2 guys are out. And now you have Amendola, which is pretty good, as a slot machine type player. Kareem Grant, or Jakeem Grant, my bad, not Kareem. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Jakeem Grant, I know I was saying something wrong. Jakeem Grant, who's a little 5'5" dude, probably 175 soaking wet, a speedster. Still hasn't hit that uptick to be one of those big name players, but he can bring it back on you on a kickoff punt return type deal. He's going to be thrust into that lineup, so he's going to have a lot of chances to make big plays. And Devontae Parker, who, since being a Miami Dolphin, has a I'm missing sign hanging under on his chain or whatever, because he has been missing ever since he came into the league. He's not what he was supposed to be. A lot has been pointed towards him being unhappy with the organization, and he probably needs a change of scenery, i.e. Amari Cooper, who, the difference is Amari Cooper produced his first 2 years. Devontae Parker has not produced ever, especially not this year. He's been healthy scratched, which is not a good thing. Usually you want to be missing games because you're probably injured, not because you're healthy and you're just not worth it for the team to start. But with those receivers out, now Devontae Parker is going to be thrust into that more than likely third receiver role. And this is his chance to get back into the league. to get back, not just in the good graciousness of the Miami Dolphins, but just the NFL. Because, I mean, it's not a surprise for those of you that pay attention to the NFL that he wants to get traded. But the Dolphins want a third round pick. That's the problem. No one's going to give you a third round pick for a player that doesn't do anything, that's never done anything, that his highlights are back in college. So, I mean, this could be a win-win for both sides, for the Dolphins and Devontae Parker. If he can go out there and play decent, make some plays, then you might have teams knocking on the door like, hey, we'll give you a fourth. You send us Devontae Parker, both sides are happy, boom, there you go. So you can have those three receivers out there tonight for the Miami Dolphins. But, I mean, when you look at both of these teams, especially the Texans are getting going now, not just offensively, but defensively. You know, that win last week against the Texans, or excuse me, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, you can't play against yourself unless you practice scrimmage. But against the Jaguars, not the Jaguars, the Jaguars, decisive win, 20-7. But, I mean, you could say it's defense, but I'll tell you it's Blake Bortles. So, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. The Texans are just on a whole different level when it comes to their momentum and Miami's momentum. They're at home. Now, if you look at the offense and Deshaun Watson, he's still not Deshaun Watson from last year before the injury. You know, that's not, I'm not breaking news there. He just hasn't provided that. But they're able to win these games. And I think it's like the whole Carson Wentz deal. It's going to take a little bit of time, and then you might get Deshaun Watson, the original Deshaun Watson, closer to the end of the season. No Kiki Cutie today, so it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins. It's going to be Will Fuller. And then you got Lamar Miller in the backfield, Alfred Blue in the backfield. For Miami, like I mentioned, it's going to be Amendola, Grant, Parker, some form or fashion, I believe. Frank Gore, Kenyon Drake. That's what you have. But I'm going to give this game to the Texans all the way, just because of how they've been playing. And if you just look at it just on paper, they're doing what the paper's been saying. The Texans got a pretty good ball team. They're a playoff team. Right now, they lead the division. And I expect them to get this win tonight here on Thursday Night Football, 27-16. It's just the Dolphins will not be able to produce enough scoring to keep up with the Texans. Not just that, but the Texans' defense is just unstoppable at this juncture of the NFL season. Everything's coming together for that team. Is this the game where Deshaun Watson breaks out? Maybe throws 3 or 4 touchdowns? It's possible. I don't see why not. I mean, the Detroit Lions, their offense was full force against the Miami Dolphins last week. The week prior, Mitch Trubisky was full force against the Miami Dolphins. Tom Brady was full force against the Dolphins, but that's Tom Brady. But Deshaun Watson is getting close to that elite category. He just has to get back to last year. He's still hesitating when it comes to when to run, when not to. Sometimes he takes off too early. Last year, it just seemed like he was doing everything correct. So just waiting for him just to get back to that, you know, that not just elusiveness, but just the decision-making that he was making last year, Deshaun Watson. So I like the Texans in this game tonight. Should be a somewhat fun one. Last week's game was a blowout between Denver and Arizona, so I don't expect anything like that. And these are two better teams. You got two teams that are above 500, so it should be pretty fun to see. And plus, Miami Dolphins got some pretty nice uniforms. You know, they got that white with the aqua, with the orange. So pretty. And Texas is going to be all dark blue. Doing that for somewhat of a color rush theme. So look out for that, man. Texans, Dolphins. I got the Texans 27-16. Again, should be somewhat of a fun game. Blake Bortles, I mentioned. Man, Blake Bortles going to get another chance. And they said this immediately after his benching the next day. Like, Blake Bortles is still our starting quarterback. But this is it. And this is going to be in London against the Philadelphia Eagles. I still don't understand why they haven't traded for somebody. The whole Colin Kaepernick thing, no. That's no. A guy that hasn't played football in 2 years is not going to help this team. Sorry. I don't care what anybody says. He might come in and be a backup somewhere, but no, it's just not going to happen. I don't care if he's been training. It's not going to work. So I don't like that argument. That's just my point of view. If you don't like it, I don't really give a you know what. There are a lot of other players I'd rather have than Colin Kaepernick right now to take over my team. And yes, I would take Blake Bortles right now over Colin Kaepernick. So whatever Malcolm Jenkins is talking about, you're incorrect. And for him, who is safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, facing Blake Bortles, I wouldn't be talking like that facing them this week because you might get superhero Blake Bortles. Superhero Blake Bortles comes out, man, like once every 4 or 5 games. You might get him. I'm not betting on it, but still, you don't want to be saying that before a game that Jacksonville really needs. Well, both teams really need. Both teams 3 and 4. This might be some dagger time for both of these teams, and that's crazy to say. But we'll talk about that game more tomorrow on Full Force Football Friday, baby. That's what we do. But Blake Bortles, this is it. This is it. He's got to. If he's going to save his career, it's going to happen this week. And that's it. There's no bones about it. There's not going to be, well, we're going to bench him and then he'll come back. And if they do that, man, I don't know what Jacksonville's doing. I don't know what they're waiting for. But Colin Kaepernick is not the answer. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not jump into that conversation. Let's not. Anytime anyone jumps into that conversation, as opposed to it being football related, it's more so, are you for the skin color or against the skin color? And we don't do that thing here. We don't do that on the Fast Break Sports Hour. We talk about sports and we talk about why you can't play. That's it. Can't play. Not at this juncture. You're not going to jump in there and just take things over. That's not going to happen. So that's why it hasn't happened. Not because of anything else. And that's the way it works. So probably looking for some help receiver-wise. I would think Jacksonville at some point should have traded for a receiver. There's 2 or 3 out there that are on the market. But that remains to be seen. Yeah, I'm kind of like, when it comes to talking anything that's not having to do with the football field and reasons why. I'm done with that. We're not talking about that. Number 7 for the 49ers doesn't play because he doesn't play. He hasn't been playing. All that stuff, I'm just done. Eric Reed's playing. Why? Because he can play. He's with the Panthers. He can play. He's good. He's been good. So, I don't know what to say besides that. I don't really care if anybody doesn't like what I say. I don't think I care. I don't give a, you know what? Get at me. But thank you for joining me here live on the Fast Break Sports Hour. A little bit of shorter show. Tomorrow, Full Force Football Friday. I got to pick up my son. That's what I do. Dodgers going to win tomorrow. That's how we do. That's all you can do. Just see what happens. This is the Fast Break Sports Hour. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy your game tonight. Whatever you're doing, whether it's NBA, whether it's Thursday night football, or you're waiting for the game tomorrow. But enjoy sports, love sports. That's all it is, man. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. One team wins, one team loses. That's just the way it works. Then talk about the reason why they lost. That's it. Fast Break Sports Hour. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all that good stuff. And check me out tomorrow on Full Force Football Friday. I'm out. Love y'all. Do what you want.